With me to go through the morning papers now, the Sunday papers, are Ian Lloyd, a royal biographer and author of The Throne, 1,000 Years of British Coronations, and journalist Afia Hagan. So, very good morning to both of you. It's quite fresh here this morning, isn't it? But I'm slightly jealous of your coat, I have to say, Afia. But anyway, lots of papers to delve into to distract us from the temperature. Yes. We're kicking off with the Observer's front page, which does cover the local elections on it, doesn't it, Afia? Yeah. But it's got their main picture dominates that picture of King Charles during the coronation yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Bit of a split screen, if you like, from the Observer. Of course, they do have that incredible picture of King Charles with the crown, scepter, orb, all the paraphernalia. But then underneath, they are talking about the local elections because, of course, we only really wrapped up counting for that on Friday, and we're going to definitely delve into that more next week. I'm sure Keir Starmer, Sarah Davey and Rishi Sunak will have a lot to say about the results, but they talked a bit about the Labour Party results on the bottom there. And I guess that's their way of saying we do acknowledge that there is two huge stories playing out at the same time, and not everything is about the coronation. I mean, I was reading yesterday that if what happened in the local elections turned into a general election result, then Labour would be 9 points in the lead. So it really is a wake-up call for the Conservative Party. 1,000 seats lost. Is it as stunning a victory as the Labour Party would want? I think it probably is, but the Liberal Democrats also made some gains. But now for the Labour Party and for Keir Starmer, it's about being able to turn that into an election result, for that to translate. And that's where the problem is.
That's right. And of course, plenty of politics to come here on Sky News. We've got Sophie Ridge on Sunday at 8:30, where lots of those questions will be discussed there. But in the meantime, perhaps inevitably, the main focus for the Observer, as a paper that's not traditionally doing a lot of coverage on royal stories, but they do acknowledge that yesterday was a big moment in history.
Yeah, absolutely. And the picture that of all the covers, that took my eye because, as you said, I've done a book on the coronations and looked back on previous ones, and that image on the front of the Observer shows the King sitting on St Edward's chair that was made in the 1290s, wearing a crown that was made in 1661 for Charles II, and it reminded me so much of earlier royal portraits. There's a picture in the Abbey, a portrait, the first portrait of an English king, Richard II, is on display in Westminster Abbey. And if you look at pictures of Elizabeth I, they're all sitting with the crown, the scepter and the orb, and that's just emphasise the historical link, I think, for me.
Yeah, and Ian, we're going to turn to the Sun on Sunday next, and I think it's actually the same photograph of him on that front page as well. And he looks very serious, doesn't he? I mean, what did you make of his mood during the service? Did he look nervous to you? How would you sum up?
At times he looked nervous, but at the same time he'd obviously prepared, and he's got a fascination with history. I mean, I remember Kenneth Branagh doing the film Henry V, and he asked him what it was like being Prince of Wales, because Henry V was Prince of Wales at the time in part of the Shakespeare play. And he's got a total respect and fascination for history. And of course, as everybody said, he's been waiting 70 years. Not many of us waited 70 years for what Diana called the top job. You know, he's obviously thought a great deal, and I think it meant a lot. And as a very religious person, a spiritual person, I think it would have affected him. Certainly affected the late Queen and her grandfather, George VI. They both wrote about the spiritual aspect, you know.
And yet that personal moment when William kissed his cheek, that was quite touching, wasn't it? Because his face did seem to soften at that moment. Yeah. Take us on to the Mail on Sunday, though, Afia, because this is a very different picture, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually one of the only, I think there's another paper that also has an image of King Charles and Queen Camilla. But I thought this one was nice because even though they're not facing us, we do see their faces, and it seems to be a moment of intimacy that's been caught there. You do wonder what they were saying to each other. The paper has the look that says, "Darling, it was a triumph." I think it's lovely to see them both together on the front of the paper there, wearing their crowns, looking absolutely resplendent. And, you know, people really loved the balcony moment where they came out with the family, Camilla's grandchildren, the pages as well, and then as well as the working royals flanking them on either side. But also I loved it when they came back out by themselves for an encore wave, if you will, another run around the block. And I think, yes.
Can't run around the block with a crown like that
No,
on.
and that big old cloak with 8 people carrying it, and all those jewels, and an orb and a scepter and everything else. But I just love the fact that you've got the two of them kind of caught in this moment together. It's really lovely.
And
what they're saying to each other is probably nothing particularly. I know the last time we had a king and queen like that was George VI, and that's 1937. And apparently the crowd was singing, "We want the king, we want the king," and he apparently turned to the queen and said, "Well, I want my dinner, never mind that." So he could have been saying something particularly like,
You can imagine they would.
My feet are killing me.
Yes, they would be quite peckish.
Does your head hurt?
Yeah.
And on the Sunday Telegraph as well. And if we thought that the Mail on Sunday had a slightly more relaxed pose, the Sunday Telegraph, it really does look like we think this is probably after the balcony moment. Is that your interpretation?
It is, yeah. I mean, they're turning round and coming back in, sort of thing. And what's great about this picture, you've got the formality of the couple and then this absolute chaos behind them. And you see over Charles's shoulder his equerry there, and these young boys, the pages, George is one, but he's not in the shot, but they're all really focused on the equerry that's obviously telling them what to do. And
do you think that's that sense of we've done the big bit of the day? We've done
relief.
The relief. I mean, there must have been a sense of relief that it had gone smoothly.
Yeah, I mean, I saw them here. I came down with the crowd and had a look at that, and he did look incredibly moved, and as you say, relief. But another you're interested in with fashion is that Camilla's got, if you look at the bottom of the dress, can you see the little dog on the...
Oh, is there? Yes, there's
a
lots of little personal touches in the... if you can, I don't know if you can see it in that picture there. It might be just underneath our...
one there, and there's one on the other side. But she's got 2 Jack Russells.
Lots of little personal touches in the embroidery.
There was loads of that all the way through this Iris. I mean, the devil's really in the detail. I mean, a lot of these flowers are flowers that she had in her bouquet from her wedding as well, that have been embroidered all into her dress. And a lot of the thread that was used is recycled. The devil's in the detail, isn't it, when it comes to things like this? King Charles loves things like that.
And also just to have Camilla there with her crown, standing alongside her husband, something that she probably never thought would happen, and the country neither.
No, absolutely. You think the late Queen, didn't meet her until 2000, when she was more or less forced to do it. I mean, she was ostracised in the 90s and one of the most disliked person in the country. And then... the great thing last year was the late Queen gave her an endorsement, didn't she, at the time of the Platinum Jubilee, saying, in the fullness of time, I wish you would accept Camilla as Queen, or words to that effect, and which was a kind of shoo-in for that role.
Yeah.
And a quick look at the Sunday Mirror. They have a picture of Charles with the orb and sceptre.
Yeah.
What did you make of it, Afia? Because obviously they tried to introduce more modern elements. They tried to make it more inclusive, more diverse in the service, but there was this very traditional, obviously a lot of history reflected in ancient traditions.
Yeah.
What did you make of the balance?
I mean, there was lots of juxtapositions, wasn't there? I mean, you've got this orb and the scepter and the ancient crowns, ancient thrones and everything, and then you did have, people from all walks of life who've done incredible things in their communities, part of the 850 people that were invited. You did have people from lots of different backgrounds carrying the relics, lots of juxtapositions.
Yeah, indeed. Fascinating stuff. Lots more to talk about in the next hour, but for the moment we're out of time. Afia and Ian, good to see you.
Thanks.
See you again shortly.
Yeah.